Hello, everybody, and welcome to Heart of the Matter, a broadcast series where survivors come on and share their stories so that we can learn from them to live the healthiest lives we can. I want to remind everyone that heart disease is the #1 killer of women, affecting 48 million women in the United States. My guest today is a heart survivor, and I'm so pleased to welcome Michelle Sheely as my guest. I want to tell you a little bit about her. Michelle was born and raised in Oakland, California. As a runner and avid soccer player, she played soccer and ran marathons and half marathons until she was diagnosed with heart disease 4 years ago at age 44. She's the national sales manager in the natural and specialty foods industry. She's a writer and storyteller and has competed in many story slams for NPR's The Moth, which is on National Public Radio. During her free time, you'll find her trail running or hiking with her 10-year-old daughter, Hazel, and her border collie, Ella. I met Michelle in an online group for women with heart disease, and I quickly learned that she was a writer and a new heart patient and so anxious to go out and share her story. And I asked her if she was interested in becoming a Women Heart Champion, and she was, and she has since achieved that. So won't you welcome today our guest, Michelle Sheely. Michelle, I'm going to ask you a few questions, but before I do that, will you tell us your heart story?
Sure. Thanks so much for having me. I'm really excited to be on here and to be able to share my story and help women. So my story's as surprising as anybody else's. I went in to my doctor for a checkup because I was having chest pain while running and I was really winded. I thought maybe I had strained something when I was lifting weights, but I went in, we did a full physical, we did an EKG that we thought was normal. She sent me home with some Pepsid, told me not to drink so much wine. And I thought she was crazy and that I never wanted to see that doctor again because who wants to be told that? So I went home and a couple of days later, the cops are at my door and I answer. I have no idea why. And they asked if my doctor was Dr. Reddy. And they said, your doctor's been trying to get a hold of you. And I called my doctor and she told me my EKG wasn't normal and I needed to get to an emergency room right away. Within 24 hours, I had a stent in my LAD artery because my LAD artery was 95% occluded. And this was a complete surprise to me because 6 months before I had just ran the Nike women's half marathon in San Francisco and I was always in good shape. So I thought, how can I, somebody who's been a marathon runner and a natural foodie, type of person have, coronary artery disease? That just doesn't happen to people like me. But this started on a 4-year journey of me trying to figure out what my exact issue was, because a year later, my stent was 95% occluded again. I had to get a second stent. And then 6 months later, my heart rate is all over the place. I'm in AFib. I spent the next 3 days in the hospital. I was diagnosed with atrial fibrillation. And with a few months after that, I had an ablation to fix an ablation to fix the timing of my heart so that I could be in what is called normal sinus rhythm. My heart felt like it was in a mosh pit. It was all over the place in its timing. And so having that ablation was going to fix that. So I thought, okay, I'm fixed. Things are good. 2 weeks later, I have jaw pain, chest pain, left arm pain. I go back into the hospital and I'm 90% occluded in another one of my arteries. I said, how is this happening? So I make some drastic changes. I become a plant-based vegan, no oil, the whole thing. I'm going full throttle because I don't understand how my arteries keep getting occluded when my numbers are so good. 6 months later, I'm back in the cath lab because I'm having issues again. I mean, by this time I've had multiple hospital stays. I've had multiple trips to the ER. They know me in the treadmill lab where you do the stress test. They know me in the ER. They're starting to know know me by first name. The ambulance and fire departments know my house because I've had so many false alarms thinking that I'm having heart attacks when my EKGs are coming back normal. I'm passing treadmill tests. We can't find anything except, every, 6 months to a year, my arteries are getting occluded. So I go in for the final time and that LAD artery that I have the 2 stents is occluded again. And the doctor performing the intervention, not the intervention, but in the cath lab, he was a doctor who had just come from Stanford. And he said, we're really going to take a deeper look around. I think we have something else going on here. And what he discovered as soon as he went through my femoral artery was that I have something that's called a myocardial bridge. And what that is when one of the arteries in the heart, could be any one of the arteries, your LAD or, any number of the arteries that go through the heart, tunnel through the heart muscle and come back out. And what that was doing was causing plaque buildup in my artery. And that was causing damage to the artery. So that is why I was having all this reoccurring plaque buildup, even though my total cholesterol was 70 because I was a plant-based vegan. So he said, look, we're taught in medical school that myocardial bridges are benign. They're not a problem. However, Stanford's doing new research that's showing that in a certain subset of the population that has them, 25% of the population does, it's congenital, that it happens at birth. He said 25% of the population has them. In a certain subset of that population, they are problematic, and Stanford's leading the research. They sent me to Stanford where I had all these studies done with the doctor who's leading the research, Dr. English Schnicker. And she told me, I don't think we need to do open heart surgery on you because that's the fix. They go in, they do open heart surgery, they unroof the artery. She said, I don't think we need to do that on you. I think we can medically manage you. Whenever they say medically manage you, that just means put you on heavy drugs for the rest of your life. And I said, you know what? I don't want to be medically managed. I said, I want this bridge study because I want to know really what's going on. Because what's going to happen is, and I read all her research papers. I knew all the vernacular. The medical terminology. I had collected all my own data. I said, my artery is occluding at 7% a month. Based on the data that we have in the trends, what's going to happen is I am going to be occluded again in my LAD artery. I have 3 stents. They can't re-stent me. I'm going to need coronary artery bypass graft. So I'll have to have bypass. And if I have a bridge, they can't bypass that. And so that's going to be a problem. So I'm really racing against the clock for time. And she said, okay, we'll do the bridge study. She did the bridge study, and where they go in and they do a pretty invasive, intervention through the arteries, run a lot of tests through arteries, like with pressure rods and all that, to find out, is this pain and is this problem that she's having really being contributed from the myocardial bridge? Turns out it was. And she came out and she sat next to me and she said, and I'm in the hospital bed just looking at her, and she said, there is so much damage to your LAD artery that if you don't have open heart surgery and have open heart surgery soon, your artery is going to collapse and there'll be nothing that we can do for you. So me pushing to have the bridge study is what has saved my life and why I'm here. And in December 2019, I had open heart surgery. I just celebrated my 1 year. And I am doing so much better. But I will always have heart disease. I have congenital heart disease, but coronary artery disease as well. I have vasospasm. So I have heart disease and I live with heart disease every day. But it took me pushing and collecting my own data and really being my own advocate to get the results that I needed to survive.
So it sounds like you're a data hound. And I like that about you. And I think your doctors might appreciate that too. Is that the case?
Well, what I found out was when I would tell doctors, oh, I feel this way, or I feel this, or I feel this way, they were always trying to gather the information from me. And they would say, well, there's no specific study on this, because doctors they go off data. And I thought, I have to speak their same language. And if I don't speak their same language, I am not going to be able to get the things that I need from them. And so I figured they love data. And if they had data that they could look at to see trends, then that would help them diagnose me. And so that's why I brought the data to them and I collected all of it, because it just helped communicate. It was a communication tool for me and my medical team to be able to diagnose me properly. So when they said, I don't think that this could be cardiac, I think it could be something else, I'm like, no, look at the data. Look at all this. At this, when I was able to say my artery is occluding at 7% a month, I just took how much time versus how, over the months versus how much percentage that it was blocked by the time they found it, and to be able to present that. And so, it ended up saving my life.
It did. So I always like to ask the survivors, what lifestyle changes did you make? And I caught that you made some early on your own, but in total, what all did you do?
So the very first thing that I did was, when I got my first stent, was I became a vegetarian, and I really kicked up the exercise. I was running 20, 25 days, not days a week, 20, 25 miles a week. I had a strict vegetarian diet, and I wasn't eating any more than 36 grams of fat a day. Just to give you a benchmark of that, about 80 grams of fat is what a normal person eats on a daily basis. That sounds like a lot, but it really isn't. When you take into consideration avocados are amazing. So I ended up losing 35 pounds. And then I was a strict vegetarian. And then 2 years into it, I became a plant-based vegan. And I said, I need to go plant-based, because I thought for sure what I was doing wasn't enough. And I had read a lot of books that said being a plant-based vegan and going no oil and was, the method to reverse heart disease. So I thought, I have nothing to lose except my life, so I may as well do this.
Right. So were you disappointed, or did you feel any emotions when you realized, number one, you couldn't reverse it, and number two, that you're going to have this the rest of your life?
I think with heart disease, there's always emotion that you don't foresee or expect, and it really just smacks you down. I call the emotion with heart disease like a sneaker wave. You just don't see it coming. And yeah, of course, I had a lot of emotion, because I always thought that I could beat this disease. I was always a very competitive person. So for me, I was so competitive with this disease, saying, I'm going to beat you. I'm going to win. And realizing that it's something that I can't beat. It's part of who I am now. And I have to learn to manage it.
Yeah.
It's like an unruly child. Like, you just have to put boundaries in place and learn to manage it.
I know. And I so hear you, and thank you for saying that, because the people that are listening, as long as they can understand that this is real and those emotions, it's okay to feel that, because a lot of us are competitive like that.
Yeah, so, it is. Yeah. And I said, I won't beat it, but I can manage it. And if I'm managing it, then I'm truly beating it.
I made a note of your unruly child. I think that's pretty good, actually. Okay. And two last questions. What did you learn about yourself after this diagnosis?
Well, I learned that I was a lot more resilient than I thought I was. One of the things I definitely really learned is I've always been a really energetic person, and always just go, 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 go. And even my cardiologist said, he goes, you're used to go, 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 go. I need you to get used to slow, 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 slow. And so what I learned about myself is that it's okay to step back. You don't have to be going all the time. That rest is so important. And you talk about lifestyle changes. I learned how to rest more. I really took into consideration, when I would run marathons, how I would rest and repair my muscles. And any athlete knows that in order to achieve the athletic, conquest that they want to achieve, that they have to rest and repair. And the heart is just another muscle that needs rest and repair. And I know that when I rest my myself and my heart through meditation, through just taking an entire Sunday off to relax on the couch, that I'm actually doing something good for my heart. And also you need to exercise the heart as well, but rest and repair is key. I always say rest is more. And I consider rest now a prescription. I take it daily, just as if it was a prescription.
I like that. So I'm going to ask you one last question, but I'm tempted to use your last answer for this.
Okay.
What advice would you give us women about heart disease?
The advice I would say is advocate, advocate, advocate. It is collect your own data and advocate for yourself. Your medical team is there for you. They are taking their medical knowledge that they learned in school and they are trying to diagnose you. So they have the PhDs and the medical degrees in their field of study, but you have the PhD in your body, in you. And you are part of that medical team. You are just as important part of that medical team as they are. And it's a cooperative relationship. So I think, what I learned is being my own advocate, collecting my own data, and being able to learn how to communicate, with a medical team is so vastly important. Don't take no for an answer. Just don't take no for an answer, because if you do, it could end up costing you your life. Doctors make mistakes. We make mistakes, but they really want to help you, and advocating for yourself and communicating with them by collecting your own data is going to be key to you saving your own life.
That's such great advice, and I thank you for that. And your story proves it. You were there, persisting all the way. I know.
All the way. I'm a very persistent person. I think that's why I've been in sales for 20 years. I don't give up. Never give up. I mean, that's one of the things I say. Never give up, and don't take no for an answer.
Okay, great. Well, I'm going to sign off for now. And Michelle, you and I'll stay on for a minute after this, but I'm going to say goodbye to the audience, and I'll see them next time on Heart of the Matter. Thank you for joining us. Talk soon. Bye. Oh, I'm going to do this. I have to hit the button. There we go.